Hello, and welcome to Political Science 1101 American Government. I am Dr. Carl Snook, and what I decided to do today was I would go over the syllabus a little bit and give you some ideas. I hope you're all as excited as I am to get back to normal, I guess, in, uh, in this wonderful semester, but at the very least, there will be some things that where I'll be a little more available than I've been over this last year and a half. First of all, I am going to have office hours this semester between 9 a.m. and 11 on Mondays and Wednesday, or by appointment. That's in addition to any type of online communication that we would do. I am still willing, if necessary, to meet with people through Microsoft Teams. However, I'm going to go back to having a preference towards meeting face-to-face for those of you who are on campus or are available. Obviously, if you're not on campus, I'm not expecting you to make the special trip. We'll just try to make sure that we maintain the lines of communication so that if you have any problems or concerns, that I can be there to solve them for you. After all, I'm probably the best person to decipher my syllabus and my course to you. You can always ask, I guess, a classmate. Working together with classmates is not always a bad idea, except on the exams, of course. But I think that trying to maintain a good line of communication with your instructor is usually the best course of action. I've included my telephone number and also my office. I will be in my office a lot more this semester than I've been recently. Now, my strong preference is if you're going to contact me at my campus email. It's a little bit clunky trying to contact me through D2L. What'll happen is I'll get a message and it'll come through to my campus email, but then I'm not going to be able to respond to you. So if I don't notice that it's a D2L message and I just try to respond, what's going to happen is about an hour later, I'm going to discover that I didn't send it to you at all, that it bounced back to me and that you haven't received a message at all. And I know that you don't just send these messages because you have something to get off your chest. What you are hoping to do is get a response from me. And so if you want a good response in a timely manner, your best bet's the campus email. I would also add that what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to get back in touch with you as soon as possible, certainly within 24 hours, so long as that you contact me during the week. I say 10 to 4, but I'm actually checking my email a lot of other times. We're going to have a survey generally of all sorts of ideas from American government, ranging from the Constitution to public opinion to how the governmental institutions work. There won't be a lot of current events questions. Sometimes you'll be asked to know who actually holds certain positions, who's the president, who's the vice president, who's the Speaker of the House. But things like, what happened in the news this week is probably something that might jump out as a good topic of conversation in class to introduce ideas. However, I tend to shy away from that a little bit because I have a couple other ideas that might make this semester a little more fun than just saying, why don't you read the newspaper and tell me what happened. Our required text is The Logic of American Politics. People always smile. They say, well, what is the logic to American politics? This is very illogical sometimes. But the truth is that the people who founded the country, amongst other things, were very much fans of the so-called Age of Reason. And one of the things that they wanted to make sure happened was that they created incentives, the so-called checks and balances within our government, that they created incentives for different people in government to behave in certain ways. They figured that if you separated government into 3 distinct branches, that it would be difficult for them to work together because each person is going to be trying to protect his institution at the expense of the others. And they really, really, really wanted change to be slow and incremental. And in many ways, they were very successful at that. When we're pushing for fast and rapid change, maybe that's frustrating. But when we want to slow down a president who has a interesting agenda, or we want to, we want to protect some group within society. Sometimes it's better when it is difficult for change to occur rapidly. So I guess whether you're happy or whether you're upset with the status quo depends an awful lot on how much you want the status quo to be, given pride of place. Well, in our system, the status quo does have a great deal of protection. So the logic of American politics, there's a new edition out this year. So I guess that's the 10th edition. If you find the 9th edition, now I do not promise you that there won't be things that have changed here and there. There might be a picture of somebody who isn't president anymore. There might be a picture of somebody who used to be the Speaker of the House or something like that if you get an older edition. But if it can save you some money, the key terms are largely the same. The layout of the textbook is largely the same. And so especially the 9th edition will be fine this semester. Right now, to give you an opportunity to buy something used, I wouldn't mind if you used the older edition. So how's grading going to work this semester? And I know, how about I'll tell you. So we're going to have discussions where I'm going to ask you to watch a video. We would imagine that if we had a Monday, Wednesday, Friday class with no online component, that what would happen is that on Mondays and Wednesdays I would teach new material, and on Friday what you would do is you would all discuss some topic that I had come up with. We're also going to have 8 quizzes on course material. Actually, the first quiz is going to be about current the syllabus and what you need to know and understand from the syllabus. So that leaves 7 more where you're going to be looking at course material. I think that a student who works hard and is diligent should get the bulk of these points. And you probably will want those because there's other things in the class that are a little bit more challenging. One thing that's both challenging and fun is that you're going to have a short paper. I'm going to be doing this over time, but for right now, it's a top 10 list where you're going to make a list of the top 10 most powerful women in the U.S. government. Now, largely this is going to be your opinion. You will be able to look at it and say, I either agree or I disagree with the concept of so-and-so. In fact, I'm not going to tell you anybody that you should make sure that you include because I want this to be your list. But at the same time, I'm going to want it to be an informed list. We're going to spend some time learning what power means. That's not the same as saying who's the most important person. The most important person might have been somebody who was a groundbreaker or a path setter for women in America. But that wouldn't leave them as being powerful. After all, you can have been, say, the first person to accomplish something, the first woman to have been on the Supreme Court. And if you're now retired, because we're talking in current times, who would be the most powerful people? So power involves the ability to cause other people to do things, to change the way government works, or to gain policies that you're seeking. So somebody who once had power but doesn't anymore is not a powerful person. Similarly, you could have somebody who has a marquee name, somebody who is on television all the time. But if they ask for something and it wouldn't be accomplished, they're not powerful. So we'll talk about this in more detail, but it'll give you an idea. And I'm thinking about putting together for myself, before any of you answer, a list of a couple hundred people who might be powerful. And but what I'm really going to ask is for you to be able to justify in in a couple sentences why somebody would be one of the most powerful people. And much as the top 10 lists that you see, the most famous musicians of the 90s, or the best new cars or new computer games that are available, this will be your top 10 list. We're also going to have a midterm and a final. And I would say right off that sometimes I think students disappoint themselves a little bit with the midterm and the final. It might be that because the midterm and the final are open book and open note, as are the quizzes, that students get to feeling like maybe they shouldn't study or that they don't really need to study. But then if you're surprised and you just, if you study more than you really ought to have, than you needed to, and you're surprised by how incredibly easy an exam is, then, well, you waste a couple hours of your life. But if you don't study and you're surprised by how difficult it is, then, you waste a letter grade. You waste a couple letter grades. And that's where the real calamity occurs. If you say to yourself, well, I'd rather get a C in this course than accidentally spend 2 hours more than I needed to, maybe that's not the right attitude to undertake your educational experience with, right? Instead, I think that maybe what you should do is you say, well, I'm going to learn as much as I have the time to learn. And I'm going to do as well on the exam as I possibly can. Maybe it was my goal to only get a B in this class, and maybe now I see that I have a chance to get an A. Well, don't let yourself down. I had to speak to somebody over the summer about that. And she was crushed because she had an A going in the class, and then she did very poorly on the final exam, and 2 letter grades evaporated. And then I get the question, well, is there any extra credit? And sadly, there's not really a lot of opportunity for extra credit. Sometimes in service of different academic goals of the School of Government and International Affairs, we have a couple bonus opportunities. But that's not the same as saying, well, I did badly and now I want to be able to do something less difficult than the original assignment was to bail myself out. That's not really what we're seeking to do here. What we're seeking to do here is to give you all an opportunity to succeed at the actual course itself. And I find that I find that students tend to do better when they know that they have a task ahead of themselves. And so I don't want you to be blindsided by an exam that's a little more difficult than you thought it would be. And then finally, I'm going to have an attendance component. If you're taking the class hybrid, right? And if you're taking the course hybrid, there's going to be a in-class attendance component with only a slight online component to attendance. So make sure that you log on to the computer and check into the class page at least once a week, preferably more often than that. If you don't take a quiz, for instance, you won't only just lose the points that you could have gotten on the quiz, you're also going to lose an attendance point because you're going to need to have taken part in every assignment. Now, the syllabus has several ideas about course expectations. I'm going to be posting within the first week a list of university policies that you should familiarize yourself with, but primarily, focus on the syllabus, but things like grade appeals and plagiarism over and above anything that I might say. you really need to make sure that you know what the university is going to say about those things. So I do have hidden in the section on extra credit a thing that says, don't ask about extra credit. There will be an opportunity, by the way, for a couple bonus points later in the semester where the School of Government and International Affairs conducts a survey of all 1101 students. So there you go. Don't assume you're going to do well on the final exam. Go ahead and get those extra bonus points. Plus you get to be part of a survey, which could be fun. But I will contact you. I will put on the course page any information about any opportunities to gather extra points. Do not ask. For late assignments, I do have some rules on late assignments. The main thing is that if you're going to have a late assignment, make sure you contact me before the assignment is due. I mean, I guess there's an exception if you're in a plane crash, right? Then maybe you're not going to be able to, maybe you're trapped in the Andes and you're running away from hungry soccer players. And you might not have time to send out a satellite telephone call to me to make sure that I know that you won't get the paper in. But then again, if you survive, you'll be in the news and I'll know. You'll be able to document that later. But for the most part, I try to be a very reasonable person, so long as I know in advance that there's going to be a problem, and it's the kind of problem where I realize that you are putting my class in its proper level of importance, but at the same time, things have come up that have just made it impossible for you to complete the task on time, and then we will set up a plan for when you will be able to complete your assignment. So on page 4 of the syllabus, there is a list of the assignments, when they're due. There will always be due on the last day that's listed for the module unless otherwise indicated. The dates for the midterm and the final. So somebody could make the solid argument to you that that you already know when the midterm and final are. If there's going to be a problem getting those, getting the exam taken during those days, try to contact me immediately, right? If it's a religious holiday or there's going to be something that comes up, tell me about it right away. I want us all to succeed. Quite often, a great many students do well in our class, and I'd love it if it was a record number of A's, B's, and C's in this course this semester. Let's hope that we all do better than even normal. The one thing I would warn everybody, and we're going to be talking about the top 10 list a lot more detail in the beginning of Module 3. So that would give you 2 months. Now, sometimes you get a better outcome when you give somebody a week to do something because they just focus very hard that week and they get it done. Whereas if I tell you you have 2 months to do something, then maybe forget a little bit. So I'm going to try to keep reminding you. What would probably be the very best method for completing a paper that's due November the 21st about the most powerful women in American government is that you decide who those people are. You come up with some method for determining who those people are, and you decide your list of 10, and then maybe you revisit it again where you actually write up the paper. So Module 1, getting started, which is largely about the syllabus and the rules for the class, but we'll have discussion 1, which will be your personal introduction, and we'll have quiz 1, which is a quiz on the syllabus. All of the other modules are 2 weeks long, or possibly 3, until we get to the study guide for the final exam. There's a little bit of material about course delivery and coronavirus and what happens if they have to change the modality and all that. And then finally, I have a note on communication between me and you. And I really hope that this semester that we have a great deal of success with communication. The key for success for you is, first of all, that I communicate the course material to you, that you are able to learn what you need to know to do well on the exams and on the paper. But more than that, quite often ideas and questions come up in your mind where you're confused. And if you mishear from somebody else what you're supposed to do, or you're just trying to decide for yourself what you're supposed to do, often that'll create more problems than just a quick email to me. And if I can solve your problems and I can help your grade, that'll make me happy. It's not my goal that anybody does badly. It's my goal that everybody does well. I want, when this is done, for you to believe that you are in the best possible situation to succeed. I don't promise you the most fun, but I do promise you that I will care enough to try to help you do well in this course. So go ahead and read through Module 1. Make sure that you complete Discussion 1 and Quiz number 1. Thank you.